Section 6.5, the percent of change. Percent change is the percent of a quantity that changes from the original amount. In other words, you've seen this before. You can go to a store and they say that it's 20% off. That right there is a percent of change. It's changing the original amount to a sales price. Also, if you go to your local store, they give you a tax. That tax increases your overall bill. So if you had originally were going to pay like $100 and there's a 7% tax, it means that your overall bill is going to go from 100 to 107 because it is a percent increase, which brings me to the next piece, what we call percent increases and decreases. Percent increase is when a original price or original number, whatever, and I shouldn't say price because it could be anything, so I won't actually put the word number here, goes up, all right? And percent decrease is when a number goes down, all right? It's pretty straightforward on that. The way we kind of look at this, and this is another thing I want you to look at, is what we call physical change. This is more of a Mr. Lewis term than anything, but the physical change is the actual amount the original number goes up or down. So I can tell you that something is 25% off, but what does that mean? What am I actually taking off the overall price of my sale item or anything like that? I need to know that physical number, that physical change. So a couple of things that we're going to go into more detail here is one, is finding the new amounts after a change, and then two, finding the percent of change, all right? So let's just talk about this one first. Finding the new amounts after a change. So I've given you a little bit of a kind of a step-by-step thing, is find the physical change by using A equals P times W, which you should know by now. This is your part is equal to your percent times your whole. And then whatever that is, we add or subtract that physical change to the original number. So let's go through, just do a quick one real quick. It says 120 books increased by 55%. Well, the first thing I need to know is find out that physical change by using A equals P times W. So I know that my percent here is going to be 0.55 because of those rules we did a few lessons back. And we're going to multiply that by 120. So let's figure out what that is. 0.55 times 120, I get 66. So A, my part, is 66. This is my physical change. That means that it's increasing by 66 books. So all in all, I'm going to take this number and I'm going to add it to 120. So after I increase it, I have 186 books at my disposal. And this is a percent of increase. So I had to find the physical change and then I had to add it back to the original. Number two is very similar, but this time it says decreased. So I still need to find that physical change, which we said in step one. So it's that same concept. And I'm going to plug everything in. 0.65 for my percent times my whole. And when I do that, I'm going to get 65 times 0.8. And I get 52. So my physical change is 52. And since it's a decrease, I'm actually going to say 80 minus 52. And that is going to give me 28. So after I decreased by 65%, I went from 80 down to 28. This is what we're talking about when we find the new amounts after a change. We need to know that physical change first, and then we're either going to add it, or we're going to subtract it, depending on whether it's an increase or a decrease. So in this next piece, what we're trying to do is to find the percent of change. What I'm going to be giving you is, I'm going to give you like the new price or the new number versus the original number. And your job is to tell me if I increased it or I decreased it using a percentage. And there are multiple ways of doing that, but this one seems to be personally the most direct method of doing it. I would take the new amount and I subtract it by the original amount, and whatever that is, I divide it by the original amount. And what this gives me is the percent of change in decimal form. However, it also tells me another thing. If this number that I get happens to be a positive percentage, it means that I had a percent of increase. I went up. I went up from my original number. I may have went from $100 to $110. That is a percent of increase. However, if this number happens to be a negative percent, it means that I have a percent decrease. So what I would end up having is I went from $100 and I went down to $90. That means I had a percent decrease. There was a physical decrease there. So that's kind of something that should help you out on this. So let's just go ahead and do a couple of these problems together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and kind of put a basic equation down. We know that our percentage is going to be my new minus my original over my original. That's what I have on the other sheet of paper. We're just going to shorthand it. So when I go to put numbers in, my new is 50 because it went to 50 points, minus my original, which is 25, over 25. We can simplify the top and say 50 minus 25 is equal to 25 over 25. And now when we go ahead and solve 25 divided by 25, it is a 1. And notice this, and remember this, that this is a percent in decimal form. That means that I have to move my decimal 2 places to the right, and this becomes 100%. And what type of percentage is it? Is it an increase or a decrease? Well, as I said before, we know it's an increase because it went up from 25 to 50. We also can verify that this is an increase because this is a positive number. So this is a 100% increase, and that's how we would write our answer. It is a 100% increase. Now, if we look at the next one, we have a 125 invitations to 75 invitations. Right off the bat, you should realize that this is a decrease, but we can still use our equation to help prove this. P is equal to my new minus my old over my old. P is equal to my new, which is 75, minus 125 over 125. Well, let's finish this all the way out. Find my handy dandy calculator somewhere. I could do that in my head actually, but I don't want to. That's, here we go. 75 minus 125 gives me a negative 50 over 125. So now I'm going to finish that out. And I get that my percent is equal to negative 0.4. All right, right off the bat, you should know that this is a negative. This means that this is going to be a decrease. Like we already said, it was a decrease. But not only that, this is in decimal form, so we can move our over by two jumps. That becomes 40%. So the answer to this is 40% decrease. Notice that I didn't put the negative in there anymore because it's really not needed. I just need to know what the actual decrease was. I don't really need that negative. This is just a little thing to let me know, hey, this is a negative, not going to be a decrease. So why don't you try number 5 and number 6 on your own? So for number 5, you should have got about 12.5% increase, and for number 6, it's a 42.9% increase. So this next problem, it says 1 week, 72 people got a speeding ticket. The next week, only 36 people got a speeding ticket. What is the percent of change in the speeding tickets? Well, I've already kind of set up the our little equation that we've made up, and we need to figure out which one's the new number and what one's the original number. Well, we can actually say this right here is going to be our new number because that's the following week. We're trying to find the percent of change between these 2 weeks. So we can say 36 minus 72 over 72 is equal to my percent. Well, 36 minus 72 gives me a negative 36 over 72, and that's still my percent. Running off the page, my apologies. I can plug this into my calculator, negative 36 divided by 72. I get that my percent in decimal form is negative 0.5. But we need to change this into a percentage, so we can go 1, 2. That would change it to a 50%. And since this is a negative number, we can say that this was a 50% decrease. And I am done. And that's it for this video. As always, if you need some help, come give me a holler, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.